Thank you all for being here today. Today is a few days before the Thanksgiving holiday, and for many families out there, it's a time to rejoice and a time to get ready to have some great food and talk some junk about football. But most importantly, it's a time where families can stop and come together. And at some points, there are some hard challenges that families face that really has a stressful impact because of the holidays. Sometimes around the holidays, mental illness, depression, and stress affect all of us. And we want to make sure that people know, people that are struggling here in the city of Mount Vernon and beyond, that there are resources available and around you. There are things you can do to get help and get access to resources that can help you see through the holidays. I'm joined by a few people here, a few organizations. Darcel Sweet from Full Circle of Health, Marlene Furtick from the Clinic Director from Family Services of Westchester, Amy Gellis and Shauna Aarons Cook from the Guidance Center, Dr. Klaus von Schorn, the Director of Mental Health at Montefiore, and Jamie Pessin from United Way. We are also here to hear from some of our experts in the field about mental health, wellness, and to provide some key tips of what you can do to be safe and healthy around the holidays. First and foremost, we want everybody, number one, to maintain your health. The second tip is to find a way to give to others and take the spirit of the holidays and really enjoy them. The third is to not overextend yourself and try and say no to taking on too many projects. That's kind of hard for me, but I do that as much as I can. Number four is to focus on the present and focus on moving toward the future. Don't let the past hold you back. The past is not all that bad, but it shouldn't really get you down. Five is to try and avoid family struggles. Try and have open discussions with your spouse and your relatives. There are people here, experts, that can kind of coach all of us on what we should do about that and when you get to that challenge. Number six is to plan ahead. And if you're traveling, do travel early. Number seven is to talk to people that not only make you feel good, but can add value to the conversation. Number eight is to play with your children, play with your family, and make sure you make time for play. Number nine is to be childlike. I like to believe we're all Toys R Us kids, but this is important that we maintain that ability to enjoy the time and enjoy the senses around you. And number 10 is to focus on the holidays and what it means to you. So with that, I'm going to call up Montefiore Hospital Dr. Von Schorn to provide some feedback and comments about what he does at Montefiore and some tips you can explore to have a stress-free holiday. Dr. Von Schorn.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And on behalf of Montefiore, thank you for inviting us, Mr. Mayor. At Montefiore Mount Vernon Hospital, we have a number of mental health services. Primarily, we're available 24/7 for emergency room services for anyone suffering any mental health, crisis, depression, whatever comes up. We also have an inpatient service for people who need to be hospitalized for depression, psychosis, whatever their ailments are. Our outreach programs include an ACT team, which is an assertive community treatment program in the community. We also have a care coordination program, and we have a very large methadone program here in the city as well. You know, this time of the year brings up a lot of depression and stress, primarily because we're all trying to do the right thing. We all try to get together with families and enjoy the time, but there are a number of individuals in all communities, especially here now, who feel marginalized and they're isolated. And it's that social isolation that increases at this time of the year because people feel left out. They feel that they can't celebrate and be a part of the joy and the celebration and the families because they're isolated, they're alone. Maybe they suffer from mental illness, maybe they've experienced a loss. And some of the other things that happen at this time is we start thinking about our loved ones that have passed, okay? You start thinking about your parents. I've lost both my parents, so of course that's a natural tendency to think about those things. And these are things that, despite the joy and the happiness of the holiday time, make us a little sad. And when that sadness increases and we don't have any outlet for it, it worsens and we see depression. And unfortunately, so often, and especially in isolated elderly people, we know that sometimes that leads to suicidal attempts. And unfortunately, sometimes people are very successful in doing that. So we want to provide an opportunity to help these individuals reach out to people. Reach out to the people that you know are isolated, alone. I've been hearing from the rest of the team that's here today, there's some wonderful services available on Thanksgiving for homeless people, for isolated people, and those are just some of the things that we're hearing about. But besides that, you also want to remember that you don't have to be perfect. We all strive to get that perfect bird out, to get the perfect gift, to gather the family together, and have everyone have a wonderful time. And unfortunately, as we all know, sometimes that doesn't work out. There's Uncle so-and-so and Aunt so-and-so that don't get along, and there's fighting at the Thanksgiving table. And that just increases more tension and makes the host or hostess and everyone in the family celebration feel even more isolated and sad. And along with that, we think about some of the things you can do, and that's to reach out to all the different community services. Some of the other people that are here have wonderful services in this community as well as our own, and be realistic about your expectations. The mayor mentioned some 10-point of ways to reduce stress at the holidays, and I think those are very important. I have pretty much similar things, but I think Mr. Mayor covered most of them. Remember some things also: money, budgets. Don't overspend. Don't have to buy that perfect gift. Okay? Learn to say no. Sometimes families put a lot of pressure on you have to host it this year, and you have to invite everyone, and it's very hard to do all those things. And people, even the host or hostess or the families, feel very stressed, and it can get very sad and isolated. So take time, take a breather. Remember exercise. We all say that. We don't do it, but we say it, and we should do it, okay? So remember that, and take a time for yourself, take a walk, plan a little bit ahead, and hopefully you can avoid all that holiday stress and have a wonderful time, and include the people who don't feel as fortunate as some of us do on these holidays, okay? And please remember that we're here for any needs in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Now we'll call on Marlene Furtick from Family Services Westchester.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank you for having this press conference, because it is so important to remember how to have a stress-free holiday. Very often, as you've heard, holidays are not stress-free. But we at Family Service of Westchester, we have 6 clinics throughout Westchester County. I can really say are in the forefront of delivering Thanksgiving in a box. So often it's the holiday, it's the meal. People will say to us, our clients, it's their favorite holiday of the season. But however, sometimes they're not able to provide for their families. So we at Family Service of Westchester, in particular the Mount Vernon office, is giving out over 118 Thanksgiving in a box, which it will include a ham, all the trimmings, and then tonight, Tuesday, well this afternoon, from 3 to 8 p.m., we're giving out free meals we've planned for at least 300 people at the Mason Lodge here in Mount Vernon. So we want to invite everybody to remember, stay away from topics that may provide stress and strife. I would say stay away from political topics in particular, but enjoy the holidays, enjoy your family, and try to remember putting those old hurts and those old feelings of negativity behind you, and enjoy the day and find something to be thankful for. Thank you.
And I do want to point out that coming up in Mount Vernon, being raised in Mount Vernon, Marlene Furtick was instrumental in providing opportunities and resources to young people, particularly me. So I just want to make sure you know that it does take a village to raise a child. And in this case, the city really did do a great job in helping myself and the next person that's coming up, Jamie Pessin from the United Way. Jamie?
Thank you, Mayor Thomas. Thank you for inviting United Way to speak, and we wanted to provide some solutions that the public can hold on to. First one we wanted to say is that United Way's 211 call center is open from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. We encourage you to dial the number. Yes, the number is 211. And for the professionals that can't wait through the phone line, we also want to provide the website that you can do a search of all the resources. That would be 211hudson.org. And I also wanted to acknowledge that during the holiday season, for many people, resources become a concern, mental health issues rise, and people look for help. United Way 211 is who you can turn to for help. For food, we'll give you information about soup kitchens, food pantries, or even where you can get a holiday package of food, as one of the people just mentioned. We'll let you know about housing and shelters, so if you need a place to stay tonight, we can let you know about a warming center, or we can let you know how you can get housing on a more permanent basis. Also, we can give you information about Section 8, how to apply, who's going to be helpful, what the requirements are, and apartment listings that would be available. We can give you information about government services, such as not only how to contact Mount Vernon City Hall, but we can give you the number to a specific department, or we can give you their website where you can look up all the information, because Mount Vernon has a wonderful website that is plentiful with information. And on topic to what we're talking about, mental health. Mental health is a trying time during the holidays, and we want you to know that if you have a family member that possibly needs a wellness check, 211 is a place you can call to find out who can provide that wellness check, what the criteria are, and how you can begin to reach out so that you can solve your family member's situation. If you have personal situations, we have hotlines you can talk to. We have peer lines where you can talk to somebody who's already been through it. Or we can give you a referral to a counselor that you can go to that accepts insurance to help in a more long-term fashion. So the one thing I want you to take away from this conversation is give United Way 211 a call. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, hearing about the hotlines and how you can reach out for help, I'm glad to see that Kanye West was hospitalized so we can evaluate his mental state. But at the end of the day, there is someone in Mount Vernon that also works with many stars and celebrity athletes. It's Darcel Sweet from Full Circle Health. Darcel?
Thank you. My name is Darcel Dillard-Sweet. I'm with Full Circle Health.
You can speak a little louder.
Okay. My name is Darcel Dillard-Sweet, and I'm with Full Circle Health. We're located in Lower Westchester, also the Bronx and Manhattan. And what I want to say today is, and I thank the mayor for this press conference, stress touches everyone. Doesn't matter how wealthy you are, doesn't matter how successful you are, and the holidays things get exacerbated. All you need is a loss of job or a traumatic situation in your family. We located in all these areas are willing to meet you where you are. We will do home visits if necessary, and we're able to help you exactly at that moment of your most dire need. Sometimes people think about celebrities that they're not touched by this, and you're right, everybody is. One of the things I want to mention is how you deal with that stress. Sometimes you have to have resiliency. So we want to encourage people to tap into the resiliency. If you're a spiritual person, your pastor, you go to your church, you go to your synagogue, a close friend, but we all have a resiliency. And use that, tap into that person. And then of course, know when you're above your head. A lot of pastors sometimes don't know that, and you need to refer out to a professional. And there are non-professionals here around us, and I'm encouraging everyone to use your professional services. Our website is fullcirclehealth.org, and we're happy to be here to assist during the holidays. This is the time of year where crime increases as well. Loss of jobs, loss of employment. There's a mental state around unemployment that we have to take very seriously, and I think the city of Mount Vernon is doing a good job of trying to do that. So Mayor, we thank you for that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And for guidance, there is a Center for Guidance, and it's run by Amy Gellis, and she's joined today by Shauna, who's going to talk to us about some more tips about what we can do during these stressful periods, and hopefully the tips that you received today provide not just great examples of what you can do, but also introduce you to some resources that are here in the city of Mount Vernon and beyond. Shauna, the Guidance Center?
Sorry, I've been holding that in for a minute. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mayor, so very much for hosting today's press conference. I think that your commitment to mental health and wellness and supportive services is just greatly appreciated. The Guidance Center of Westchester has been an organization supporting the community for 74 years. What that has allowed us to do is to provide mental health services, but also substance use treatment services, housing, education, Right, and then our early childhood program. So we actually work with the very little bits as young as 3 years old, all the way through every stage of life. We are here in Mount Vernon. We are based here in Mount Vernon, but we also have programs and services throughout Westchester County. Our 2 large mental health clinics are open 6 days per week, Monday through Saturday, including Monday through Thursday until 9 o'clock at night. And what that does is that I think it offers a level of access that's going to be really important. You know, I think there's probably an idea that people have in their minds of someone who needs help. And many times there's a little bit of shame that we ourselves never want to be that one person who needs help. And so instead, we can kind of think about the most extreme of cases. And that's why I appreciate the way that you framed today's press conference about stress-free, because it does touch every single one of us in some way, shape, or form. And I thought that maybe from my perspective, it would be helpful to talk about what you can look out for to let you know when you might want to reach out for additional support. So on one hand, if you find that you can't sleep at night, that you're tossing and turning, maybe you're having palpitations, it could look like not being hungry, eating a lot, wanting to eat all of the time. You could just get a feeling of fear about you. What often gets missed is this idea of just being angry and irritable. And these are just like some of the simple signs that maybe having someone to talk to can be helpful. So the sadness that you feel isn't always going to be suicidal thoughts and I don't want to live anymore, I'm so sad, I'm crying. It's I can't sleep, I don't want to be around anyone, I'm angry and I'm irritable. So if you're feeling any of those things, think about the Guidance Center of Westchester, think about the United Way 211 line, think about the Montefiore Hospital, think about Full Circle, think about all of us that are up here, and just know that we have clinicians and professionals at every level who can assist you. So for us, it's going to be the Guidance Center of Westchester.org, and you know, our mission is really to support mental health, overcoming poverty, education, and homelessness. So there's probably something that we can support you with. So happy holidays, everyone, and thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll stop and take questions on topic for stress-free holidays.
I guess of your list, do you have one that you think is the most important and why?
I believe be childlike, because children are, you know, brutally honest, and they have a sense of innocence that is not afraid to challenge and question things, but also be open to learn. So I think rediscovering that with all Toys R Us kids are a great step to take, particularly during this holiday season. And if you think about many kids, while you may try and buy them the latest toy, I heard Hatchimals is in. God knows what that is, but if you step back and look at what really engages young people, it could be it's just their imagination. You give them a box, you know, some aluminum foil and a marker, they can make a robot. Or if you give them a ball and a bat, they can go play baseball. So these are things that I think we have to get back to the basics and remember that children are just as simple as many of us. We just have to remember to discover our inner child. Any other on-topic questions? Okay. Is there any other topic you guys want to talk about? We do have an update on the situation that occurred yesterday. So I asked that Lieutenant Sexton if you want to join me up here, and you're welcome to stay if you'd like, or you can. I just want to bring Lieutenant Sexton up to us. So yesterday, as some of you are aware, there was a homicide in the city of Mount Vernon, and due to the hard and swift work of the Mount Vernon Police Department, we have a suspect that is being arraigned today. His name is Clifford Ali. He's 53 years old. He's being arraigned on manslaughter. The victim was 73 years old, and the identity is still being withheld as the family is being contacted. So what we can talk about is, you know, while this stress-free information is timely, it's morbidly timely, because unfortunately something happened the other day that we hope doesn't happen again, not just in Mount Vernon, but anywhere. So we hope that the information we did provide is useful for those out there watching this. Again, there are 10 tips courtesy of Full Circle of Health. Again, I think being childlike is the most important, but also we have to make sure that we focus on what's really important, and that's time with your family. So with that, I'll ask Lieutenant Sexton to provide any more further details on the investigation at this point in time, and then we'll take any questions on this topic. Sexton.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
Good morning.
What was the relationship between these two? How did you guys find this guy, and I guess what happened?
Officers yesterday received a call. Officers received a call of a aided and responsive party at the address of 214 South 5. So that's the initial reason of us being there.
Okay. The relationship between Ali and the victim?
They have domestic history, their family. So we have records on file with them.
So is he the son of the victim?
He is a family member. I have limited information right now I can give out because this is an active investigation.
Right.
But they were family.
And how did the victim die?
Once again, I have to leave no comment for that.
Okay. So there was some type of dispute between family members inside the house that led to the death of the victim? Is that essentially what you're saying?
Well, something happened, and we know that it resulted in the unfortunate untimely death of this person. And we have, Clifford Ali, who's being arraigned today. And in terms of the exact time, we'll get back to you on the exact time, but we know that he's being arraigned today.
And did they live together?
Yes, they did.
Is he being arraigned in city court or is it in county court?
He's being arraigned in Mount Vernon City Court.
Okay. Do you know what time?
No, John.
Okay.
Is the death considered suspicious, and can you talk a little bit about why?
Yes, the death is deemed suspicious, and we all actively, Westchester County, the Westchester County District Attorney's Office, and our Police Department Education Unit is all actively investigating this as suspicious.
Can you elaborate on why?
The reasoning of the death is not of natural cause.
So what I'll do is, well, thank you, Lieutenant Sexton. If there's any additional points to be made, I'll invite some of the experts up here to add any context, given that, domestic disputes do sometimes result in some form of altercation or mental or verbal abuse. And knowing that seniors in particular are very vulnerable at this point in time of the year, we want to make sure that, there are some helpful tips and information out there of what you can do. As you already heard, you can call 211. If it's not burning or if it's not, a life safety event, you can call 211. But if it is, a fire or a major bodily harm incident, you call 911. But to get, input on how you can deal with some very tough challenges, very personal challenges, particularly between, elderly people and their relatives, be it younger or of the same age, we want to make sure that everyone out there knows that there are outlets and there are opportunities and resources available to address these issues very carefully, very methodically, and privately as well, because wellness and health is a very private situation. And this is something that, again, this is why we assemble these experts ahead of the holidays to try and have this discussion. But seeing that a tragic event happened, it only makes the information more timely and more urgent. Anybody like to add to this?
Darcel again from Full Circle Health. One thing about crime and mental wellness and mental health issues, sometimes they do run together. There are a number of people who might have a diagnosis, bipolar, borderline personality disorder, schizotypical. There's different disorders that can cause you to be a little bit more angry, a little more irritable, sometimes even dangerous. And I believe that at a time during the holidays, some of these things get triggered in families. And domestic violence is something that we work with at Full Circle, and domestic violence is very serious. There are preventable measures people can take, and sometimes it is knowing when to call 911 during an altercation that's getting a little heated at the family dinner table or somewhere around the family where someone is getting a little bit higher level in their anger than you would expect. Sometimes we're afraid to do that. We're afraid to do that call when it comes to a family member. But we're going to encourage people during the holiday to stay safe and to recognize that sometimes things happen that may have a mental illness edge that you're not even aware of. Not sure what the situation was caused by or if there is mental wellness or illness in place. But it's not surprising that when it comes to domestic violence, when it comes to issues like this, that sometimes there's something underneath it, under that anger that never probably got addressed. That's what all these counselors are here for. We can help you talk about these issues, and people don't take therapy seriously, but it absolutely can help. And sometimes, of course, medication is warranted, depending on the condition of the person. So I wanted to add that because that does run very high during the holidays. Domestic violence increases.
Anybody else before we wrap it up?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Right, hang on. You had a question?
I guess, I stepped out, so sorry if you did say this. I guess I'm just curious, you know, we've been hearing a lot of reports recently with tragedies in the media with mental health and police officers, and police have to protect themselves as well. Do you have a way to guide people to speak to 911 or let them know ahead of time situation, or is there, what's the best way for people with a loved one with mental illness so that these things can be avoided, I guess?
The sad truth about mental illness, especially in most families, and especially families of color, there's a lot of stigma and shame. And that stigma and shame does go beyond just people of color. Everyone sometimes have a problem with mental illness. So what I would suggest people need to do is know that there's something happening with the person, tap into their providers, know if there's a doctor that they can call, and not be afraid. We're very afraid when it comes to a family member because the consequences, that family member gets upset with you. And we have situations that we're counseling right now where a brother and sister have gone at odds with each other, and the brother almost did try to threaten her, and the husband stepped in. The prevention that they used was the husband was smart enough to call 911 and not to be afraid. And just that call, while it was uncomfortable, it made them all aware of the situation, and they avoided a very tragic situation by just not being afraid to make the call. And that's the tip I would give. Don't be afraid to make that call. It'll save your life, your family member's life, and over time, you'll heal because that person's going to get mad when they get out of the hospital, undoubtedly. But you'll heal, and you'll understand that you're saving them from trauma and your family from trauma down the line.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to, absolutely, I think that's excellent advice what you just gave, but you know, along with the mental illness, there's a couple of things we haven't talked about, and holidays, and they kind of go together, and that's alcohol and drugs, okay? And especially, let's start with alcohol, because we all sit around that table and everyone's drinking those eggnogs and they're spiked and it gets worse and worse, and alcohol is a big problem in all communities. And remember, for people who feel a little stressed and feel a little sad and a little depressed, they start drinking a little more heavily. And if you have any kind of mental illness at all, or depression or issues, they're released because it inhibits everyone, right? So that's a very important thing to remember, and it worsens mental illness for clients because if they're on medication, they shouldn't be drinking. And we say that for all of us. If anyone's on medication, you have to be very careful about drinking. So you want to fuel that with something more positive, of course. Family involvement is a major issue. It's so important, excuse me, if you know that your individual is on medication, is not following up with their psychiatrist or their outpatient therapist, that's an important issue as well. And so family encouraging someone to watch for them, to call 911, to call their provider is really so important. Last thing, drugs. We know we've been seeing a major increase in drugs in all communities. We're seeing things, just besides the marijuanas and the cocaine, we're seeing things nowadays like K2 and PCP and all sorts of things like GHB and all these different mind-altering drugs that are really causing major problems and making people very aggressive and very violent. And those are other things to watch out for. And I know that this administration is working very hard to eliminate and to work on eliminating so many of the sources of drugs here, as we're seeing in the rest of the communities. but it's a big problem, and it's something that we all really have to watch out for and protect our families, our friends, and especially our children.
Hi, it's Shauna from the Guidance Center of Westchester. I just wanted to add not to wait until it's violent, not to wait until you're scared. I think if there are conversations that you witness in your home or out in the community, it's better to talk to someone about that than it is to wait until, okay, now I'm scared. So that could be you. What you could be witnessing is you getting angry, you raising your voice, you threatening or using derogatory names to speak to someone. That's enough. You know, again, I don't want to undercut how important it is to understand that mental illness isn't just the worst of what we've ever seen. It's the subtleties. Long before it gets worse, it started out very subtle. And that's the time where therapy, individual therapy, family therapy, if you're arguing with a sibling, a family member, or a partner, that's the time to get therapy. Don't wait till someone's hitting and cursing. Okay? Thank you.
So this would be the final comment on topic.
So one thing I wanted to say about United Way 211 is that we're there. We're there during Thanksgiving. If you're eating Thanksgiving and you see something that you need a second opinion on, you can call the call center and you can have somebody that's a professional that's been trained to let you know whether or not this is a resource for you. And often, and it's sad, people don't want to call 911. If you are having a true emergency, we encourage you to call 911, but if you are absolutely unsure, when you reach out to 211, we will let you know very quickly if it's something that a resource can help you with or if it's something that the police can help you with. So we will be open every single day of the year up until 7 p.m. Reach out to us if you need that second opinion.
Thank you everyone for your time today, and what I'll do is I'll invite the expert panel, the panelists who are, the experts who are here. If you don't mind sitting around, I'll just get some commentary from you guys around the table. We'll turn the air conditioner on, kind of make the room a little more cool. But we'll keep this conversation going on Facebook Live. I think it's important that we engage a few things while we have you all in the room. And I think it'd be important for everybody out there that's watching this and also able to tune into this online. They're greatly appreciated. So what I'll do is I'll ask that Dave, we'll stop here and then we'll start again once everybody's all set up. Thank you everybody and have a great Thanksgiving holiday.